And we think they mean well for us. They don't. They are in business. And their business is to ensure that we continue to misgovern ourselves.
Hello, my name is Dede, and as you already know, when it comes to quality phones and accessories but yet affordable, it's Franco Trading Enterprise. We are #1. We have television set from 24 inches to 65 inches, Franco air condition from 1.5 horsepower to 2.5 horsepower. We have mobile phones, iPhones, Nokia, Samsung, Huawei, Infinix, Alcatel, and accessories like phone protectors, phone covers, pen drive, hard drives. We have skilled personnel who will serve you as you wish. So look no further than Franco Trading Enterprise. Franco Trading Enterprise, the home of quality air condition, television, mobile phones, and accessories.
His investigative piece on the horrifying state of Ghana's morgues caught the public eye. This time around, he's taking us to the cemeteries.
This is a human skull.
The image of neglect is camouflaged by the scenery.
This you can see right here is a human womb.
Sunken graves.
Oh my, the grave just caved in. Can you imagine?
The abandonment here is glaring. Health experts are troubled.
Somebody is not doing his or her duty. It's not supposed to be like that.
Journey with Godwin Asediba as he reveals a heart-wrenching story on Ghana's creepiest cemeteries. Is the dead truly resting in peace or in pieces?
No Rest in Peace, showing March 1 at 9 p.m. on TV3, TV3 Ghana across social media and 3news.com.
We are on a mission promoting access to quality health and education through the power of our media space. Since 2014, we have made great impact. TV3 mission now drives Ghana's quest to break barriers and provide access to inclusive and quality girls' education, together with women's maternal health services. Our mission to address the needs of the socially excluded has won the admiration of many. Indeed, TV3 Mission gets you the results. Mission is live on TV3 News 360 every Saturday and Sunday. Supported by Star Ghana Foundation, with thanks to Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office.
Sit alone and I ask myself, when they sit out there at the IMF and the World Bank or the European Union, when Africans are not there, what do they say? They must be saying, we told you. They are incapable of running their affairs. We told you. They cannot run their economies. We told you. They do not have the intellectual capacity to do the right thing. So they call us in, and we call them in. And we think they mean well for us. They don't. They are in business. And their business is to ensure that we continue to misgovern ourselves.
That's just excerpts of it, but stay with me. That full conversation with Professor P.L.O. Lumumba is coming up shortly. But we have some worrying developments in Chiripone, and so we just want to get it out of the way. The security, we understand, has been beefed up at Chiripone. This is in the northeast region after 3 people were reported to have been shot dead. In fact, this included a security person and a 16-year-old girl. They were alleged to have been killed following the enskinment of a new chief of Nyangbandi near Wenchiki. That's the development as we're having it now, and quite worrying to say the least. And we are monitoring the situation quite closely just to update you, our viewers, on what is happening there. And we'll be connected with the DC for the area shortly to give us details of this. But let's go on to the telephone now. And Hajia Zuwaira is a district chief executive for the Chiripone district, and she's joining us. It's in the Northeast region. Thank you for joining us on Ghana Tonight. Earlier, reports suggested that 3 persons have been shot dead earlier today. Can you confirm that to us? What exactly is the death toll?
Okay, so I have 2 confirmed deaths. We had 1 in the hospital and 1 on the ground there.
I see. So what's the security situation in the area at the moment?
It's relatively calm, and security is being deployed to do patrols around the Wanchiki area.
I see, but have any arrests been made as we speak?
Yes, they have arrested 10 people.
I see, but what's you, the district security committee, that the DISEC's plan for the coming days to forestall any further clashes?
We are expecting the place to continue to be this calm, and as usual, security will continue its patrols, and then we would also be doing engagements with stakeholders. We actually started the engagement this evening.
I see, but did the DISEC gather any intelligence prior to the incident earlier today? And if yes, how did you employ that intelligence to curtail the unfortunate incident that we understand has led to the death of a 16-year-old girl and a military officer?
Oh, yes. This particular entertainment engagement didn't start from today. It started since 2021, sorry. You know, there was a whole lot of issues surrounding it because the paramount chief wanted to enskin a particular person, and then the chief of Wanchiki also wanted to enskin a different person. So this actually brought some disagreement, and it even took them to court. You know, later it was withdrawn and taken to the Nairi, the regional house of chiefs in the Northeast region. So the regional house of chiefs invited DISEC as well as the 2 parties. So last week, Monday, we were at the Nairi, and they, engaged all of us and took hearings. So finally, they referred us to the Yana, who is the traditional owner of our district. On Monday, just this very Monday, the Yana also passed a judgment that the chief Buba of Wanchiki be the one to do the enskinment. A letter was written to that effect for Chief Buba, and that was what he gave today, 23rd, as the day to do the enskinment. And so when the news was sent out, the other party who did not agree to the judgment are the people that got engaged with him today during the enskinment. So yes, intelligence was picked, and then we met at DISEC. We did several engagements. We went to the paramount chief, we engaged him, we pleaded with them to remain calm and allow the process to take place. We equally went to the chief of Wanchiki, Chief Buba, we engaged him and also pleaded with him to make sure he goes through a very successful program and scheming without any violence. But unfortunately, this morning, this was what we rose up to.
Okay, Ajazura, thank you for this update. But let's still stay a bit further on this. Ajazura is the DC for the Chiriponi district. Let's go on to the Zoom now. And Dr. Victor Joke is a security analyst with the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. And then also former Chieftaincy Minister Dr. Seydou Dana is also joining us on the telephone. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on Ghana Tonight. Let's start off with you, Dr. Doke. So you've seen the details of this. A military person we understand, has been shot dead with a 16-year-old girl. What should be the response mechanism, considering the details of what happened earlier today?
The chieftaincy issues with regards to northern part of Ghana is becoming a norm with, when it comes to the violence or armed clashes aspect. Now the inter-ethnic and intra-ethnic clashes is becoming a norm. The way forward with regards to how the central government, the local government can look at it is to deal with these issues decisively. Now, there are criminal aspects linked to these activities. When you look at the 15th February event, now this obviously is a standpoint for what has happened in Tripoli, because the state has not dealt with this issue yet. So other chieftaincy issues that are lingering on have the potency or the probability to generate into armed clashes. Now, the state has to move decisively. The agency, the National Peace Council, has to move in, get these parties together, come to the mediation table, and then for the state to be able to arrest those perpetrators, those criminal activities, shadow actors that are behind and fueling these conflicts, and deal with criminal issues as per the law requires. Other than that, we'll have a situation where any chief anywhere can just get up and then do what he wants because of the antecedents of 15 February. And we are heading towards lawlessness with regards to that.
I see. And Dr. Seydou Dana, you've been there as Chieftaincy Minister before. Well, we don't have a minister, substantive minister as we speak, because the minister designated has just gone through vetting, awaiting approval. But what would your recommendation be in terms of the role of the ministry and also other institutions and persons in resolving these chieftaincy issues that have come up over the last 5 days, Chiriponi, Narerugo, and some part of the Northeast region?
Well, thank you very much. And let me say good evening to everyone listening. I think that you're right to raise these questions. I am worried, as I believe many other Ghanaians are worried. But if you're asking the reason, let me just explain something to people who don't understand very well the way chieftaincy system works in Ghana. We have what we call the chieftaincy institution. And the head of that institution is the president of the National House of Chiefs. And then we have chieftaincy administration. And the head of the chieftaincy administration is the minister of chieftaincy. Now, these are this is the structure. The chiefs don't serve themselves. So when the constitution or the law gives power to chiefs, that power is, exercised with the assistance of officers. And so that leads us now to the third issue. You have the chieftaincy institution, the chiefs themselves, then you have the chieftaincy administration headed by the minister. You now have what we call the technical wing of chieftaincy, the technical unit. And I think that's where the problem is. That's why we are running into all these problems. we have the administration, the ministry is there, fine. The decision itself is fine, yes. But the technical unit, when I say the technical wing, I mean the intelligence, the officers who are recruited and trained to serve Nananum and then to assist the minister of government. And they are trained to be very close to palaces. They are trained. They are well equipped, and they are facilitated workshops, and so they are like they know much more than you know. And so they are like they assist the minister they get information to the minister.
Right.
And when more importantly, when there's a change of government, the president of the National Institute will go.
Okay.
The minister will go.
Mm-hmm.
But these technical wing people, they are not transferable. You can't take them to any other ministry. They are there till they retire. And they are the system. So when I say the system was broken down, understand me. And so if there is a change of government and you don't have a very strong, a very workable system, the incoming politician and the new president, if they may also just select muscles, just as it was done, so let's do so. And that will not be good. So that's why that unit is very, very, very crucial.
You see?
And so ask yourself, why is it that when there's a dispute, like you yourself have pointed out to Chiripone and then Nalariko and the Paku, what one would expect is your FM, you hear somebody from the Mapuris talking, you hear somebody from Boko talking.
Okay, but Dr.
What does the ministry? The ministry?
I get the point, but Dr. Seydou Dana,
what they say? Nothing.
You're a former chieftaincy minister, all right? So if you're talking about interventions, and it shouldn't be government and how the chieftaincy minister leaves, the National House of Chiefs president also leaves when there's a change of government, who should lead the process of addressing these concerns and these issues of chieftaincy in that part of the country?
The technical people assisting the ministry. The ministry, my question is, there must be reports coming from traditional areas. My question is, have them reports been coming or they are not been coming? That's my question. If they have been coming, who do they go to? Now we have this intelligence. I was, as you rightly said, I was there 2000, 2003 when this quarter and then the earlier legislative. I've seen about 3 or 4 different changes of chieftaincy, very brutal conflicts. And that's why I'm worried. You see, somebody must be responsible. The danger is when nobody is saying anything. That is no good. It cannot be left to the district dance. No. So, are the ministry getting fill-up? Are they getting reports?
Okay.
I mean, there are officers all over the country. What is happening? They should know much more than you or me.
All right, Dr. Seydou, thank you very much. And Dr. Doke, before I let you go, anytime these things happen and we deploy this military there, there's this sense of fear that we understand they take there, and then people tend to retreat. What we've seen with this military personnel who has been allegedly shot dead as a result of what happened earlier today, what should be the response of the military so as not to see some excessive responses as a result of the reported death of their colleague?
In my opinion, the institution mandated for conflict resolution, the National Peace Council, we have a National House of Chiefs and the Regional House of Chiefs. They can move in quickly whilst we look at the chieftaincy minister being led through the process to its finality. But for now, we need an urgent agency on the ground to look at the issues, the National Peace Council, and then we look at the National House of Chiefs and the Regional House of Chiefs. Of course, we have MUSEC, the RECSEC are also there doing performing their roles. So all these state institutions has to be prompt in providing preventive measures. Preventive measure, it can be direct prevention to tackle immediate and potential armed clashes. So we do not have a situation where the northeast or the northern region, part of it, will become a conflict zone, armed conflict zone. And that would be a very Herculean task for the state to deal with. Looking at the manpower, the personnel, etc., that has to go into to prevent armed clashes.
Thank you so much. Dr. Victor Doke is a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. He's a security analyst as well. Thank you to you, Dr. Seydou Dana, former Chieftaincy Minister. Appreciate your time on this, and we're keeping an eye on the developments in Chiripone. Stay with us. Subsequently, we'll be updating you. But everything rises and falls on leadership. That's according to Professor P.L.O. Lumumba, renowned Pan-Africanist. He is also an African law professor and the founder of the P.L.O. Lumumba Foundation. Earlier today, I sat with him to talk about the continent, the country, Ghana, our dance with the IMF, what has to change, and especially the issue of democracy and how young people are reacting to the offerings of democracy. Take a look. You get the sense that young people are questioning the essence of democracy because it is not reflecting, the benefits of it are not reflecting in their lives. What should give? What has to change to possibly change this narrative that we have been experiencing over time?
I'd rather we use the word governance, because when we talk about democracy, particularly since the 1990s, what we appear to be talking about is periodic elections and the existence of multi-party politics. But I believe that if we use the word governance, then we are in a better space, because governance can then be understood to mean how people run their affairs, whether it's politically, economically, or otherwise. Democracy has too much of a Western connotation, and we then judge ourselves on the standards that have been imposed on us. But I want to believe in many African societies, we have our own systems of governance where people participate in making determination of issues which are relevant to them. What we have seen in the 1990s after the collapse of the Berlin Wall and the emergence of the West as the hegemons in the world and the adoption of multi-party politics in Africa.
But Professor Lumumba, you see, here's what happens, and this is the kind of sentiments that the young people, not just the young people, but most people on the continent express, that the politician comes to you, makes promises, and based on those promises, you take a decision to either vote for A or B. They are using our own resources to fulfill the same promises that they made to us, based on which we voted for them. But what we get in return is failed promises, increased corruption, and a wanton dissipation of public resources. So that's where the challenge is.
But if you look at the thing that we call convincing, you convince a people who have convictions about critical issues. You convince a people who are clear about what they want in education, what they want in health, what they want in the economy. In other words, the level of the political maturity of the people is critical to good governance. But what we have seen in the recent past is that anybody who has money, particularly ill-gotten wealth, is capable of coming and bribing the electorate who have been impoverished, and then they are elected on that basis. Secondly, we have seen politicians appealing to the ethnic instincts of their people, particularly in these African countries which are multi-ethnic, and people vote on the basis of ethnicity. You've seen people being convinced on the basis of their religious affiliation. And that, I think, is the bane of Africa. So when I talk about elections in Africa, I don't think that they are issue-based. And your typical African politician knows. He or she has mastered the art. And he knows, or she knows, that these who constitute the electorate can be manipulated, can be bought. And that is why Africa continues to wallow in the muck and mire of sorrow and desperation.
So in your view, essentially what we've been doing is just conducting elections, which is just one of many things that characterize a democracy. After the elections, the leaders who are elected just forget to abide by the principles of democracy: probity, accountability, transparency, and so on.
Of course, you get the leaders that you deserve. If you vote an individual because they have a lot of money, or you vote an individual because they come from your ethnic grouping, or you vote an individual because you worship together without interrogating what he or she stands for that will affect the quality of your life, then you are shortchanged. You get the short end of the stick. And this is happening in almost every African country after every election cycle.
I mean, for us as a country, we are the IMF for the 18th time. We mess up, we go back to them, they help us correct our mistakes. We mess up again, we keep going back to them. We are there for the 18th time for 3 billion support and policy credibility. I mean, what must change? What are the critical issues that must change for us as a people to indeed show that we're capable of managing our own affairs?
You know, sometimes I sit alone and I ask myself, when they sit out there at the IMF and the World Bank or the European Union, when Africans are not there, what do they say? They must be saying, we told you. They are incapable of running their affairs. We told you. They cannot run their economies. We told you. They do not have the intellectual capacity to do the right thing. So they call us in, and we call them in. And we think they mean well for us. They don't. They are in business. And their business is to ensure that we continue to misgovern ourselves. Their business is to ensure that we are under their control. Their business is to ensure that they deal with us like robots. And thus far, they have succeeded. I cannot manufacture good news. And Africa cannot manufacture good news. We must face the truth with fortitude. And what is the truth? The truth is, the 55 or 54 odd countries that constitute the continent of Africa are not viable, most of them. And therefore they are susceptible to manipulation, and that is why they are manipulated every other time. The Chinese come here and manipulate us. The Americans manipulate us. The British manipulate us. The Arabs manipulate us. The other countries manipulate us. And all we are doing on a daily basis is lamentation.
And see, when you listen to leadership, the reason they give for the economic crisis, for instance, as a country that we are faced with, the reason why we are the IMF is that we're impacted heavily by COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war. And so that's why we're in this crisis. But can we continue to blame our woes on the Russia, Ukraine, and COVID-19 effect on the local economy?
No, we cannot. Russia and Ukraine war is just slightly over 1 year old. COVID, 3 years old. We've been messing ourselves up for the last over 40 years. We've been stealing our resources. We've been misgoverning ourselves. So we cannot be allowed the luxury of attributing our woes to Ukraine and COVID. That is not to say that they did not have an impact, but the impact was minimal. The larger share of the blame should fall squarely on the shoulders of those whom we call leaders, and we who are followers, who are led by the nose. We who cheer these individuals as they mess us up. we who celebrate them, we who have converted them into demigods, we are co-authors of our misfortune. And until the wax in our ears melt, and until the scales in our eyes fall, we are going to remain as the scum of the earth, to be derided by other civilizations. The Arabs will deride us, the Chinese, the Europeans, everybody. Africa is dinner on the table to be eaten, and we are being eaten as we watch and lament. We've got to look inwards and look at mismanagement, look at wastage, look at corruption, look at all those things combined and ask ourselves, what have we done wrong? Because if we want to look for excuses, we'll always find them. There is no shortage of excuses. But the truth be told, many African countries are victims of bad governance.
So, I mean, there's been some effort on the part of the leaders of the continent, starting this Africa Continental Free Trade Area, to address the intra-Africa trade deficit, right? But have we done well in the regional blocs promoting trade amongst, for instance, West Africans, East Africans, South Africans, Central Africans, North Africans, so that it would then consolidate into the AFCFTA agenda?
The ECOWAS region could have done better, but I listened to Aliko Dangote recently, and he was complaining that even him, who is the largest, one of the largest investors in Africa, to move goods from Nigeria to Benin is not easy. To get a visa to travel is not easy. No free movement of people, no free movement of goods, too many tariff and non-tariff barriers. I'm aware that since the year 2021, you now have the headquarters of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, but are we moving goods? Can you move goods easily from Cote d'Ivoire to Ghana, from Liberia to Ghana, from Ghana to Senegal, from Guinea-Bissau to Togo? The answer is no. So the time is now, and I'm very happy that this year has been declared the year where the African Union is going to focus on free movement of goods and services. I hope that is not just another round of giving promises to ourselves. Look at the multiplicity of currencies that we have here. You move here, cedi. You move there, CFA franc. You move there, naira. You move there, dalasi. And all these are weak currencies. 90% of trade in West Africa and the continent of Africa is terminated in dollars. We must de-dollarize our economies if we are going to be independent. If we don't de-dollarize our economies, we are susceptible to manipulation. Just see how your cedi is behaving.
Professor P.L.O. Lumumba, thank you so much for sitting with us on Ghana Tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that's Professor P.L.O. Lumumba diagnosing the problem of Ghana and Africa in the most simplest fashion. No convoluted language. It's quite clear. We know exactly where we are and what has brought us to this point, and what leadership has failed to do, and how the people, you and I watching, have been the victims of the kind of democracy that we are practicing on the continent. And the points that he makes, what has led us to this point and what has to change. And as I earlier indicated, you see the 3 points he talks about: corruption, the fact that we're an import-led economy, and bad governance. We're going to continue to dance with the IMF if these 3 things don't change. And the list of items that we are importing into this country, certainly some ridiculous, and the amounts that are put to it. Look at that. And the beneficiary countries of these items that are being imported into this country. When he talks about we looking inward, the capacity of the Ghanaian to also grow and produce all of these things that we're importing. Why the leadership failure in empowering the industries to take up such items that we import. Question lies with leadership, and the answers as well, they must lead. Professor P.L.O. Lumumba is a professor of law and also the founder of the P.L.O. Lumumba Foundation. He's a celebrated Pan-Africanist, sitting with me earlier. But it's the final day of campaigning for this ending in a few minutes in Africa's most populous and biggest economy, Nigeria. Ahead of Saturday's presidential poll, 18 candidates vying to be president of Nigeria, but only just about 3, some have narrowed it to 4, have the realistic chances of winning. And you have Bola Ahmed Tinubu is running on the ticket of the Rolling Up Progressive Congress, Atiku Abubakar for the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and Peter Obi on the ticket of the Labour Party. Now, I'm going to show you a brief profile of the top contenders. It's going to be on the screen right now. We are very interested in how things are playing out there because whatever happens in Nigeria obviously has a direct impact on us as an economy and as a people with the large Nigerian population we have in Ghana. Atiku Abubakar, 76 years old, PDP candidate, elected governor of Adamawa State in 1999, vice president from 1999 to 2007. His policy focus is on reuniting Nigeria, tackling insecurity, and job creation. That's it. Take a look at the next person as well. And then we also have Bola Tinubu, 70 years. The age issue has also been a big part of the conversation ahead of the elections on Saturday. Bola Tinubu, 70 years, All Progressive Congress, APC, senator from 1992 to 1993, governor of Lagos, 1999 to 2007. His policy focus is also on job creation, industrial revolution, tackling insecurity. Now, the third person as well, you have in there the likes of Roti Oyekami and, well, Rabiu Kwankwaso, 66, New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP. He's been a deputy speaker of the House of Representatives from 1992 to 1993, governor of Kano, 1999 to 2003, 2011 to 2015. Policy focus is on education and infrastructure primarily as well. And so these are the top contenders, in fact, as things play out. That's we see Peter Obi there as well. I think from the top 4 we have shown you, he comes in as the youngest Labour Party candidate, youngest ever chairman of a Nigerian bank. We're talking about Fidelity Bank, governor of Anambra State, 2006, 2007, 2007 to 2010, 2010 to 2014. His policy focus, appointed special prosecutor for corruption, also shift from consumption to production of economy, the production economy. So that's where he is also looking at. Corruption is big on his agenda, and then also improving on the Nigerian economy to be more industrial. Well, Rotimi Oyekami is the chief press secretary to the Independent National Electoral Commission, chairman of Nigeria. Rotimi, thank you so much for staying up this late and joining us on Ghana Tonight. First off, what's the preparation ahead of Saturday? People are watching in Nigeria and Ghana.
We are very prepared. We were actually preparing for this election since 2019 when we concluded the general election of that year. And if you recall, there were certain lessons that we learned from 2019. And after the election was concluded, the first thing the commission did was to review the election. And we started with internal reviews. We brought in our electoral officers from all the local government offices in the country. We brought in our resident electoral commissioners. Our reps are those that head the state offices, and of course the administrative secretaries, to look at our processes and procedures.
Right.
What worked well, what didn't work well, and why those things that didn't work well didn't. We were able to harvest some lessons from there. After that, we met with our external stakeholders, the civil society, the media, political parties, security organizations, and all sorts. And of course, we took in reports filed by accredited observers, both domestic and international. And we harvested all the recommendations, and we started from there. And of course, one of the things that we did early was to ask for reform of the Electoral Act, because we discovered that there were some encumbrances that hampered our activities in 2019. And we then lobbied the National Assembly, and of course the civil society partnered with us and the media, and we started that quite early. And at the end of the day, a new Electoral Act was passed, and the innovations, the reforms that the Electoral Act contains has led to the improvement that we now have in our electoral system. Of course, we carried out the registration of voters, which is extremely important. There is no credible election that can take place without a credible register of voters. So we conducted the registration of voters, and for 2015, the register of voters was nearly 70 million. Then for 2019, it was 84 million, and for the latest one is over 93 million. So, and just today, we released the data on the collected permanent voter cards and the uncollected permanent voter cards, and the rate of collection is extremely high. So we expect a lot of people to come in. Now, in preparing for this election, we carried out certain reforms. I don't know how much time I have, but I can quickly run down through some of them. The first one is that for 2015 and 2019, we used the smart card reader. The smart card reader helps us to identify a voter and accredit a voter using the fingerprints. But we discovered some loopholes in that. And then we brought in the bimodal voter accreditation system that also captures the facial. So what the machine does essentially is to ensure that there will be no proxy voting and the votes count. That's one. And the machine has the register of voters domiciled in it for all the polling units that we're going to use them for. That's one. Two, we established what we call the INEC result viewing portal. We discovered over the years that where Nigerians have mistrust for the commission is in the management of the election result.
Absolutely.
Nothing happens at the polling unit. But when you get to the collation level, that's when the suspicion begins. Oh, they are going to change figures. They're going to do this. So what did we do? We said, well, let's give Nigerians access to this result management system. And we started in 2017 with one of the state governorship elections called Anambra, where we said that at the end of voting, when the presiding officer at the polling unit will have counted the votes and ascertained the figures, they will paste the result sheet at the polling unit for Nigerians to see. But when we left that notion at that time, we now took the thing to the World Wide Web. We said, well, let's create a portal so that all the polling units, anytime we conduct an election, if it's a by-election, if it's an end of tenure election, like a governorship election, or like the presidential that we want to conduct within the next 48 hours, let all the polling units results be transmitted to that portal so that Nigerians will have access. And I tell you, since August 2020 that we introduced the IRE, Nigerians have welcomed it. So all the reforms that we have introduced have increased the trust of Nigerians. I'm sure if you follow the politics in Nigeria, the electoral system, you'll find that for the continuous voter registration that we carried out, this latest one, more and more Nigerians registered, and collection of permanent voter cards, more and more Nigerians turned up for the collection. The only snag is that, some of them turned up when it was very late and forced us to change the deadline a couple of times, but we are quite enthusiastic about that. So there's also the issue of security. You, of course, know that Nigeria has faced challenges. We had Boko Haram in the northeast. We had the bandits also kidnapping people in some other areas. and all of that. Well, it's not as if insecurity is a new thing. Nigeria has suffered insecurity for many years. I mean, many of the
Indeed,
former
the issue of security and then also the concerns about rigging, Rotimi. Now, some of the aspirants have been talking about the suspicion of rigging and the security concerns. The measures you put in place, are you sure that it can address these concerns about possible rigging and security as some of the aspirants have expressed?
One of the strong measures we have taken over the last 6 years is to secure the electoral space.
Right.
And when politicians found out that it was becoming more and more and more difficult for them to rig, they resorted to vote by. Like I said, if you have been following the electoral system in Nigeria, you will realize that just a couple of years ago, vote buying became a strong challenge phenomenon in our country. And why? When politicians discovered that all the other loopholes they used to take advantage of, we have blocked them, they decided to go to polling units on election. They carry back sacks of money to convince people to vote for them. And because that happened, and we noticed a higher trend in that, we invited the agencies that take care of corruption, like the EFCC and the ICPC, to join us in fighting vote buying, and it has helped. So the beavers that we introduced especially has been giving election riggers a lot of headache. Because you see, if a system makes it possible for somebody to vote twice or multiple times, then it's a bad system. But if a system ensures that once you vote, you can't vote again, and then you have to be a qualified registered voter to be able to vote. That's what the Beavers is going to do on Saturday when we open the polls for the presidential and National Assembly elections. So I think that by and large, we have done quite a lot, and rigging will be impossible on Saturday during the election.
Well, that's good to know, and I thank you. Thank you so much. Rotimi Oyekanmi, the Chief Press Secretary to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC Chair of Nigeria. That's equivalent of the Electoral Commission in Ghana. Well, thank you so much, Rotimi. We'll look up to that. We have a strong team in Nigeria already here on your Election Command Center, so stay with us. The build-up to the Nigerian election with our colleagues who have arrived in Nigeria already, giving us information, Komla Kluche and the team. But well, before we go, a number of you have been sending us messages about Professor P.L. Lumumba. He said it all, we failed, and the West will continue to say, we told you, you can't manage yourself, period. KG Tete, thank you. And I didn't enter. That's actually the length of it. You can find the full interview as well as the one we played on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. KG, thank you so much. And then also you have a number of you indeed commenting on it when you go on our Facebook page, and also on Twitter. It's at TV3 Ghana. Appreciate all the comments and the feedback. On behalf of the rest of the team, we thank you for your company. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.